Bordering Central Europe is the beautiful country of Serbia, home to the Serbian people, a place that has made a name for itself throughout history in many different ways. This is Serbia, the homeland of the Serbian people. It has no access to the sea and instead is completely surrounded by other Balkan and European countries. To the north, it shares land borders with Hungary, Croatia, and Romania. To the west lies Bosnia and Herzegovina, while Montenegro and Bulgaria sit to the south. Kosovo is also to the south, but Serbia does not officially recognize it as an independent state. Serbia covers an area of about 88,500 square kilometers, which is a fairly solid size by both European and Balkan standards. Its capital and most well-known city is, of course, Belgrade. Today, the country has a population of roughly 7 million people, with nearly 2 million of them living in Belgrade alone. Before diving into modern-day life in Belgrade, it's important to briefly touch on Serbia's history. Because the Serbian people have been directly involved in many complex and defining events over the centuries. It's believed that the Serbs first arrived in the region of today's Serbia around the 7th century, and that they belong to the South Slavic peoples. In fact, the name Yugoslavia, which they were part of in the recent past, literally meant land of the South Slavs. From the 7th to the 14th century, the Serbs established their own kingdoms and principalities, and during this period, they adopted Christianity. By the 14th century, they came face to face with the Ottoman Empire and became involved in a series of wars. One of the most significant was the First Battle of Kosovo in 1389, where heavy losses were suffered on both sides. Serbian Prince Lazar and Ottoman Sultan Murad I were both killed in the battle. It's even said that Sultan Murad was stabbed to death by a Serbian soldier while inspecting the battlefield after the fighting had ended. In 1521, Sultan Sulian the Magnificent captured Belgrade, and the Serbian principalities were fully absorbed into Ottoman territory. The Serbs remained under Ottoman rule until 1878, when they gained full independence through the Treaty of Berlin and re-established their kingdom. The 20th century brought even more turmoil. The Balkan Wars and then World War I reshaped the region once again. In 1914, a Serbian named Gabrielo Princip assassinated the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, an event that triggered the First World War. It's said that more than 1 million Serbs lost their lives during the war. After it ended, the South Slavic peoples united under the state of Yugoslavia. After Yugoslavia, the country's name changed to Serbia and Montenegro in 2003. Then in 2006, Montenegro declared independence and separated from Serbia. With that, the final remnants of Yugoslavia disappeared, and Serbia once again became an independent country on its own. Things took another difficult turn in 2008, when Kosovo, where ethnic Albanians formed the majority, declared independence from Serbia. To this day, Serbia does not officially recognize Kosovo as a sovereign state, and the border between the two is protected by NATO forces. Today, Serbia flies a flag made up of horizontal red, blue, and white stripes known as the Pan-Slavic colors. These colors carry similar meanings across Slavic nations. Red is said to represent the bloodshed and bravery of the slaves. Blue symbolizes freedom and loyalty, and white stands for peace and nobility. On the left side of the flag is a red shield topped with a royal crown, the Serbian coat of arms. This emblem was also used by historical Serbian kingdoms, and by placing it on the modern flag, Serbia seems to be emphasizing continuity and strength drawn from its past. When you visit Serbia, you'll quickly notice that the official alphabet is Cyrillic. Most Slavic countries use Cyrillic, and one of its defining features is that each sound corresponds to a single letter. It's read exactly as it's written. Serbian can also be written in the Latin alphabet, which is why in B grade you'll see some signs in Latin letters and others in Serbian Cyrillic. Even if the alphabet feels unfamiliar, learning just a few Serbian words goes a long way in winning people over. For example, hello in Serbian is zdravo. If you want to ask someone how they are, you can say kako si. Yes is da, and instead of no, they say ne. And if you ever say volim to someone, you're telling them, I love you. Looking at the currency, Serbia uses its own money, the Serbian dinar, since it's not a member of the European Union and doesn't use the euro. There's even a 2,000 dinar banknote, which currently equals about 17 euros. That alone gives you an idea of how weak the dinar is compared to the euro. On the 100 dinar bill, you'll notice a familiar face. Nikola Tesla, the world-renowned scientist. He's such a major national figure that Belgrade even named its main airport after him. There's also a museum dedicated entirely to his life and work. Once you step into the heart of Belgrade, the first place you'll likely find yourself on is KZ Mihala Street. This is the city's busiest pedestrian street, and it has an undeniably grand atmosphere. Named after Prince Mihajlo III of Serbia, the street is lined with international brands side by side. Locals from all walks of life. Elites, tourists, and everyday citizens spend hours here walking, shopping, and socializing. Tall buildings surround you, mostly in shades of cream and off-white. Many of these structures are over 100 years old, and their architecture gives the street a timeless elegance. In fact, if you look at photos from the early 1900s, KZ Mihova looks almost exactly the same. The buildings have been exceptionally well preserved over the past century. One interesting detail is that this street wasn't always pedestrian only. Cars once passed through here, and people even walked livestock down the middle of the road. Over time, it was fully transformed into a space just for pedestrians. Even back then, it was the city's busiest street, a place where people gathered to shop and socialize just like today. Nowadays, the street is filled with street musicians. In B grade, musicians can perform freely, playing their instruments without restrictions and relying on donations from passers-by. Some play the piano, others the guitar, and some simply sing. At almost any hour of the day, you'll come across different performers setting up along the street. As you listen to the music, you'll also notice mobile popcorn stands right in the middle of the street. Serbs clearly love popcorn because you'll find these small carts all over the city. And while B grade's architecture is undeniably impressive and highly photogenic, the tram lines and bus corridors cutting through the streets sometimes make it harder to fully take in those beautiful buildings without interruption. If you try to take a photo of the architecture or even the sky from across the street, it's surprisingly difficult. There are simply too many overhead cables and they end up ruining the view. Because of all these cable systems, pedestrian crossings in B grade are often built underground rather than as overpasses. The good news is that these underpasses are generally clean, modern, and well-maintained. On the transportation side, there's actually a very positive detail. Belgrade is a compact city covering only about 360 kilometers, which makes getting around extremely easy. Even better, there are completely free public transport options that take you directly from the airport into the city center. Wherever you are in the city, if you get on one of the red buses, you enter through the middle doors and travel without paying anything at all. Choosing a taxi just because the city feels small would be a big mistake. Taxis in Serbia are frankly quite opportunistic. For example, they often charge airport transfers based on the number of passengers. For 3 people, the price can go up to 50 euros. Keep in mind, the distance between the airport and the city center is only 14 kilometers. that price is simply not reasonable. A much smarter option is to take the red municipal bus number 72, which waits outside the airport. It takes you to the city center for free, and you can use the same bus from the Zeleni Venac stop to get back to the airport. When you take a closer look at the cars on the streets, you might feel a slight sense of disappointment. Even in less developed countries, capital cities often have more luxury or premium vehicles. In Belgrade, however, most private cars fall into the mid-range segment. Serbia also doesn't have a modern, nationally recognized car brand of its own. During the Yugoslav era, cars like the Zasta Jugo were produced and widely used. But in 2008, domestic production stopped and manufacturing shifted under Fiat, producing models such as the Fiat 500L. Today, some of the buses used in public transport are also produced by this brand, and Fiat holds a significant share of the automotive market in Serbia. On the streets of Belgrade, the brand you'll see most often is Škoda. This isn't too surprising considering how close Serbia is to the Czech Republic and how popular Czech-made vehicles are among locals. As for public transport infrastructure, Belgrade doesn't have a metro system, mainly because the city isn't as large as people might expect. Instead, transportation relies on city buses, bus rapid transit lines, and white taxis. In fact, many places are so close that you can easily reach them on foot. The city is divided by a river called the Sava River. More than half of the people who live in Belgrade or visit for a short stay spend most of their time on the southern side. If you don't have a specific reason to go north, you'll barely need public transportation at all. So, what's on the northern side? Mostly silence. This area known as New Belgrade is home to old Yugoslav-era residential blocks that are still inhabited today. It also hosts the main offices of global companies like Microsoft and Huawei, along with factories, sports complexes, and the airport. In a way, Belgrade has been split by function. The southern side is lively and touristic, filled with cafes, striking architecture, hotels, museums, and parks. The northern side, by contrast, feels quiet, industrial, and business-focused. It almost feels like two different cities facing each other across the Sava River. Serbia also seems to have very strong ties with China. On the northern side of the river, you'll notice many Chinese signs and Chinese flags. Near the airport, there are Chinese-language restaurants, hotels, and even casinos. During our visit, the Chinese president was in the country, which further highlighted how close the relationship between the two nations is. Large crowds turned out to welcome him, suggesting that many Serbian citizens support this political direction. Another interesting detail is water consumption. In Belgrade, people confidently drink water from public street fountains. Locals say these fountains are safe and that the only city in Serbia with serious water quality issues is Zrenjanin further north. That said, public fountains are one thing, but do not drink water directly from the tap in your apartment or hotel. Bottled water sold in plastic bottles at supermarkets is also fairly average. This really depends on what kind of water you're used to compared to water back home. Supermarket water in Serbia feels lower in quality. If you want genuinely good water, it's better to order water in glass bottles at cafes. The mineral content and taste are noticeably better. When you step into a supermarket and check the prices, they're generally reasonable. One of the most common chains is called Maxi, and locals do most of their grocery shopping there. Despite Serbia experiencing an annual inflation rate of around 122% last year, prices are still relatively cheap compared to many European countries. For example, a liter of organic milk costs around 200 dinars. Since €1 equals roughly 120 Serbian dinars, that means you can buy quality milk for about €1 and 50 cents. Standard packaged cold cuts like salami and sausages cost around €2. Unprocessed meats are also priced between 1.5 and €2. Alcohol is particularly cheap. A standard can of beer costs around 200 dinars, or roughly €1.50. If you're craving a good pasta meal, a pack of pasta usually costs between €1 and €2. In short, in Serbia, many everyday items tend to fall into the €1 to €2 price range. A small but interesting detail, internet abbreviations in Serbia are written as RS, not SR, which you'll notice on products and street signs. If you're looking for fresher and cheaper produce, walking south and away from the tourist areas will lead you to local street markets. These markets operate in a very traditional way. Vendors set up their stalls, arrange their produce, and sell directly to customers. It's a classic market system common across the Balkans and much of Europe. If you head into the quieter back streets, there are no real safety concerns, but you'll notice some buildings covered in poor quality graffiti, creating visual pollution in certain areas. That said, city cleaning services in B-grade do a solid job overall. When it comes to food, if you're wondering what to eat in Serbia and B-grade, meat is the clear answer. Large portions of affordable meat are easy to find. One of the most popular dishes across the Balkans is chapi, and they're widely eaten here as well. Each piece costs about 80 dinars. If you eat around 5, you'll pay roughly 400 dinars, about €3.5, for a filling meal. In a standard restaurant, a beef burger known locally as pajezviša costs around €4.5 and is surprisingly good. Another option is grilled chicken steak, usually served with plenty of onions and spicy sauce. This plate costs around 530 dinars, or about €4.5. If you're less interested in meat and more curious about pastries, it's worth noting that Serbs consume a lot of rich, oily baked goods, especially for breakfast. One important cultural detail in Serbia: nothing comes free at restaurants or cafes. Every sauce, every slice of bread must be ordered separately and paid for. There's no concept of complimentary extras here,